forgot my line.
I counted you down. I counted you down, dude.
I know.
Welcome to Tall and Short with Tim and Tony.
I'm Tony? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you're Tony,
yeah,
and
I
I'm
got
Tim.
This. I got this.
That's right. Come on.
It's only been 5 months, 6 months, 5 months.
Yeah, about that time.
Something like that.
Yeah. To the audience, it's going to just be, a week and everything. But for us, it has been months. Peek behind the curtain, everybody. And a lot has happened, actually, in between episode 9 and now for both of us.
A lot.
Yeah. Tony, especially, he has, by the way, congratulations, he has brought in a new life into the world.
Yep. It's a whole 6 months old as of Friday, actually. Good God, I don't remember what sleep is like. Please tell me, Tim, what is it like?
You're asking a guy who works nights now.
Yeah, I know.
You're talking to somebody who was a daybird has now become nocturnal.
Yeah. Hot meat kettle.
Exactly. I don't know what a normal sleep schedule is anymore.
No, absolutely not. No. I think most of our conversations now are at like 4:30 in the morning when I'm going to work and you're coming home from work.
That's roughly it. That's so.
Welcome to adulthood, by the way.
Yeah, that's how it be. But I'm not gonna lie. So we've had a few episodes out now. At the time of this recording, episode 3, Rasputin, has come out, and I've had some positive feedback from some coworkers of mine, as well as a few strangers on the internet, which has been pretty awesome. Like, it makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's actually legitimately surprising, because my expectations for anything are ground floor. Like,
keep your expectations low, you're never disappointed.
Yeah.
But it's also, sometimes nice to raise them a little.
But, I mean, I think our first video, as of right now, on YouTube has 45 views, which that's 45, 50 more than I was expecting. So,
and that's at the time of this recording. By the time it's come out...
By the time this has come out, we've got, 1 million views, and we've got, endorsement deals and all that, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I'm being sponsored by Ben Gay for my knees.
All right. So.
Okay, so, if I remember correctly, because I've lost my memory on everything now, because children.
But before we do that, I actually did want to tell you something.
Oh, no.
One of the people in a chat that I'm a part of in Discord, I shared the episode on the Wendigo. And they actually said, "Hey, you can show this just fine, but could you please put a spoiler on that and censor the W word, because I'm indigenous and I don't want to run into stuff like this."
Oh,
so I'm like absolutely. So
we legit have real world effects.
So I legitimately did that. I was like, "Yeah, no problem." I was more than happily to do that, because I'm a skeptic in some of this stuff, but I will respect the cultures and the beliefs on this. But it just made me go, people actually still believe this in 2023. And I thought, 1, that's awesome. But 2, that's also very scary. Like the very thought of a creature like that actually existing. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's, I mean, for the podcast, that's awesome, because that means someone's paying attention and listening enough to where they're like, hey, whoa, hang on. And they're voicing concern to a creator.
Yes.
And 2, that's cool that someone's paying attention to our podcast at all.
Well, it's
not background noise for someone.
Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, the title was Wendigo.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to just watch it.
Cool. That's really cool. That's this little surprise you were holding out on me.
Yeah.
Nice. I dig it. That's awesome. Okay. So, per our agreement when we started this show.
Need a moment there?
Struck. As per our agreement at the beginning of this shit show, every 5 episodes you get to try and creep me out with a bizarre serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've did the first episode over Killer Granny?
Correct.
Yeah, Killer Granny.
Nanny Doss, back in episode
Nanny Doss,
5.
Thank you. I've actually started watching a couple of, Netflix, the plethora of serial killer documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
But I've started watching a few, and I've tried to ease my discomfort with some of these interesting, upstanding folks.
Upstanding, yeah.
Upstanding, yes.
Funny you say upstanding. That's with my guy, with this guy. I'm not even. That's funny you actually say that, and you say that off the bat. Oh my god.
I don't like where this is going.
Okay, I will say this. A warning at the top of the show before I get into the...
You can just turn this episode off, skip to the next one. It's much better. I promise.
Yeah, before I get into the meat of this episode...
Is that another pun?
This episode will feature blood, gore, and violence. Heavy mentions of it. So if you're not into that, that's not going to hurt my feelings. I do understand that. You can skip this episode. It's okay.
Can I skip this episode?
No, Tony, you're the only exception. Everybody else, I have that written down too. It says, Tony, you're the only exception. Right in my frickin' script.
I hate you.
I knew you were going to say, can I leave? I saw that ahead, man. But otherwise, if you want to continue listening, hop aboard, you sick fucks.
Jesus. That's not how we get viewership, man. That's not how we get viewers and subscribers.
I am on 2 hours of sleep and chaotic caffeinated goblin energy, so we're kind of there, Betty.
Go ahead.
Also, I do have our
shit.
tall
The
and short
file.
case files.
Fuck
It's out
you.
here. Yeah, that's the case file is back open, Tony. And I will say this, by the end of this episode, it may change you to vegetarian. But we'll see.
I've got a bag of burgers right here.
Uh-oh. Okay, today, we're going to be talking about a German serial killer by the name of Karl Denke, who is often called the Forgotten Cannibal, as well as the Cannibal of Ziebice.
Pizza's Italian.
And don't worry, we'll unwrap a lot of, why this whole thing when we get to it. Besides the killer himself, we're also going to be covering the possible reasons as to why Denke killed, some of the grisly details found by the police after he was arrested, how he became forgotten, and how he managed to get brought back into the modern memory. Not to mention the dangers of cannibalism. There's a lot here. I have a bad...
The dangers of... It's cannibalism. That's the danger there. Were you going to get a sodium overdose from eating Billy too much?
Before we get started, a good portion of his murders actually happened during Germany's interwar period during the Weimar Republic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so World War I, it was pretty rough on the Germans. The Treaty of Versailles definitely kicked them pretty hard with a 132 billion gold mark bill, which would have been the equivalent of 500 billion USD in 2019.
There are pictures of children playing with bricks of money because it was so worthless.
I actually have photos for you. Yep. I have quite a few photos actually pertaining to that I'm going to be sending to you just because it's insane to me. I got the first ones going to you.
There we go. Should probably turn that off there, but
yeah. Here, we heard the buzz, everybody. Don't worry. I'm going to keep talking while you look at them.
Yeah, the third one I remember seeing a few times actually.
But not only with the 500 billion USD, Germany also lost millions of people, both soldiers and civilians alike, because of the war, and they were also dealing with hyperinflation from printing enormous amounts of paper money, which made the German mark worthless. Absolutely worthless.
I think
kindling and wallpaper.
Yeah.
They used it for kindling and wallpaper. One of the photos I sent you is somebody using it for wallpaper. The fact that you're using your own money.
Which is funny, because nowadays, if you found a German mark from that era, it'd probably be worth a lot.
Oh, big time.
Like, just that one survived all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of ironic. Isn't that ironic?
It's kind of fitting how we're dealing with some heavy inflation today as well. Like, it feels like...
don't get me talking about Colorado gas money.
Let's not talk about that nowadays. Like, I had to fill my truck up earlier, and And the third picture I sent you is it would take wheelbarrows worth of cash just to buy anything as simple as meat or bread.
Yeah.
Meat would be essentially insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And this would be on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute basis. 1 minute, bread would be 4 million marks. The next, 10 million. Like, it would shoot up and down insanely. There was no regulation. Then there was, obviously, housing issues, with many people being unable to afford their homes due to all the inflation.
Or just due to the fact that people are still recovering from bombing.
That, too.
And repairs for houses, I'm sure, aren't very cheap either at that point.
And especially when it is in an hyperinflation market. But this isn't what started Denke's cannibalism, but the results may have helped him out a bit. Brief side note to go with this, to go on a happy note before we get into not-so-happy notes. Germany managed to finally pay off that staggering debt 92 years later on October 3rd, 2010, which was also the 20th anniversary of the reunification of Germany.
They actually paid that off?
92 years later.
Wow.
92 years later.
Whew.
And after 20 years after Germany was reunified.
After East and West Berlin.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
I thought that was just a fun little detail.
I mean, that's just dedication on the German people.
Oh, big time.
Like, we will pay this debt.
Yeah.
We will sell you Porsches.
Now, on to Karl Denke himself. Karl Denke was born on August 12, 1870 in Oberkunzendorf in the Kingdom of Prussia, which has since been changed names to Ziebice, Poland. I'm gonna get into a lot of this.
A lot of name changing.
I'm also gonna go with that date because I went through several different sites, including Wikipedia, for a base timeline. I use Wikipedia just for that, like a base timeline.
Hey, you went to college. You can't use Wikipedia as a source.
I know, right? I use everything else, and then I collaborate all the info with other sources, and then,
build the timeline.
What you're supposed to do with a story like this. But some said his birthday was in February 1860. Others said 1866. But
Jeez.
and they changed it up. And so the most reliable sources that I could come across kept saying 1870. So I stick with it. 1870 August. And records about his childhood were pretty difficult.
I imagine.
Yeah, mostly because of, poor record keeping back then, as well as
war wiping everything out.
As well as history changing hands in the area and the times that he was living in. So,
obviously.
So there was a lot that was going on. From what has been gathered by about all this, most of his childhood, as I mentioned, is unknown, but he likely had a fairly decent childhood, being the son of successful German farmers.
Oh, yeah. He probably had to work a little bit for it, but...
Yeah, likely. He also had several siblings whose name I couldn't find. Again, records.
Yep.
Allegedly, he was a very quiet and soft-spoken child for most of his life, but he was still a little troublesome by running away from home every now and then after he had turned 12. So he'd just run away from school or home, then the police would have to bring him back, and it was just the whole thing. It was like, all right, Karl Denke's gotten out again. Let's go get him.
That's...
Also, pardon my terrible German accent.
Wait, that was Russian, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's
supposed to be ya. It's supposed to be ya.
That's close enough. Russia, Germany, it's the same.
Don't be saying that.
Politics. The Germans are great people.
Now.
Continue.
Now then. It is also likely that Denke was not a very good student in school either. I mean, he was running away from school a lot, but...
Oh, yeah, he was too busy running.
Yeah, but his teachers openly called him an idiot. He was also...
we have Dr. Crow, so...
Nah. No, they outright called him an idiot, and he was also this weird loner who moved and spoke slowly. Almost like he had a speech impediment or something. I don't know.
I'm getting real Forrest Gump vibes from this man.
You're gonna not have those Forrest Gump vibes after a while.
Spoke slowly, constantly ran, Quiet.
Oh my god. Oh god, if Forrest Gump took a dark turn. Oh man. No, okay, that's funny.
Forrest dumped the body in the forest.
Ah boy. But somehow he managed to graduate elementary school shortly after, and he soon became the apprentice to a gardener, which seemed to really do well for him, as he made a very good living as a gardener and a landscaper.
That tracks.
Because back then, gardening, it wasn't what we see nowadays.
It wasn't display gardening. It was gardening.
It was your landscapers.
Yeah.
That was the job. But he was still very much a loner at this point, and I mean, you kind of are if you're not properly socialized. Like, if you're socialized and you're ostracized and you are called an idiot by your teachers, yeah, you're gonna just want to stay alone.
Well, what you do is you end up making a podcast with one of your friends in college, and then it's hey, buddy.
Pot kettle,
Yeah,
mister.
Yeah.
He would apparently rent rooms out when he owned a home, I'm not mistaken, but he barely interacted with the other tenants, or any tenants that he was a landlord to. Just really kept to himself, very private man.
That's fair. I respect that part. I feel like I'm not going to respect much else after this point.
I am pretty sure that his family was also very happy when he had left the family farm and had actually gone to his own.
Yeah, probably so.
I mean, being a problem child and all the acting up in school and running away. So
yeah.
And then by the time he turned 25, his father had passed away, and his older brother had inherited the family farm, while Karl himself got a sizable inheritance. I couldn't find the amounts of how much he got, but it was a pretty good inheritance, apparently.
I mean, if it's good enough to survive back then.
Yeah. And for his parents' deaths and funerals, apparently he didn't even cry. Karl didn't shed one tear for his parents. So, kind of got a red flag there.
There's your first real hard red flag.
No, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I barely took any of those when I was in college. I'm not going to even try to be an expert. But kind of a possible sign towards psychopathy right there.
Yeah, definitely leaning towards something not in a good vibe.
Yeah. I mean, hell, he maybe just not have cared.
Yeah,
he may
have not liked his parents at all, but shed a tear?
But again...
Crocodile tear at least?
We don't know.
Yeah.
And, as I also mentioned, we don't know how much, but it had to be pretty good since the Denke farm was very successful. And actually, maybe I had a question for you, Tony. What would you do if you inherited a large amount of money?
How much are we talking? Because there's a lot of cars that are really expensive.
Okay, let's say you inherit a good 7 figures. I'm just gonna keep it simple, like a good 7 figures. So like $1 million. So like $1 million plus.
Bugatti Veyron.
That's a good one.
No, if I was intelligent about it, renovate my house. Well, probably get a new house and then Airbnb rent out my current house.
Yeah.
Buy a pretty decent car. Buy a pretty decent motorcycle. Get myself up to upper middle class standard, I guess.
I feel
and then sort of pocket the rest of the money and invest it or save it, something with it.
I'd put it towards your kid's college fund.
Yeah, well, that's actually already covered, but that's a whole different story. So.
Yeah, ignoring that.
but yeah, I wouldn't go crazy. If I was single and I was by myself, I'd be living in my very nice Ferrari. But yeah, now that I'm married and have a 6-month-old goblin sitting at home. Renovate. Yeah. Upper middle class myself.
I would definitely want to have like a nice Victorian style mansion.
Of course you would.
And with a good sized lawn, kind of like away from everything. Like you've seen Bob's Burgers, right?
Yeah. Mr.
Fischoder's house. Hell, Mr. Fischoder's land. Like he has all that land.
Hell, Mr. Fischoder's outfit.
The whole thing, sir, yes.
Yes, Burger Bob. Hello.
Yes, hello, Bob Burger. Mrs. Burger.
Oh, God. So I know what you need to dress up for as Halloween.
If I were to shave my facial
Oh, is this
hair-
our Halloween episode?
Oh, it is!
Oh,
This
shit.
episode falls on Halloween!
Happy anniversary to me.
Happy
I
anniversary
think.
to you, and
Yes.
happy Halloween, everybody! What better way to celebrate Halloween than talking about a serial killer?
I mean, candy?
Cannibalism?
Get out.
We're in my place right now, Buster.
I don't care. Get out.
All right. So, Denke decided to use some of that money to buy some land and begin farming because, follow in the father's footsteps. He learned how to... Kind of what... He wound up being a terrible farmer, believe it or not.
That sounds about right.
And in doing so, he sold the land in the process. He then used that money to buy a 2-story home that also had a shed in the back.
Oh, great. Well, I know where that shed's going.
In the town of Munsterberg, which wasn't too far from his birth town. Karl would rent out a couple of the rooms to his tenants, just so that way, little extra money.
Yeah, a little pocket of change. Oh, excuse me.
And it was in Munsterberg that Karl Denke was described as a pillar of the community. You mentioning upstanding earlier. He was well-liked. He would allow travelers and vagrants to stop and rest at his home. He was a deeply religious man and was known to play the organ at the local church on several occasions.
You're describing Forrest Gump.
He was even called Papa Denke or Vater Denke by some of the townspeople for his generous and caring nature.
I don't like where this is going.
People also seemed to enjoy him because he didn't drink and he had no interest in women. But this might have been due to misogynistic attitudes he held more than anything. Which...
Yeah, that tracks for the time.
Kind of tracks.
Late 1800s, very...
Leading into the 1900s now at this point.
Almost boring into the 1900s, yeah.
Yep. Denke also owned a little shop in a nearby market where he would sell meat and leather goods. It was also at this house, both before and after World War I, that he would enact his horrible acts of murder and cannibalism, which all started in 1903.
Gross.
Mm-hmm. Now, for unknown reasons, Denke just decided to kill. Was it due to having a split personality? Was he always a bad guy who finally let his intrusive thoughts take over? Was he a sociopath? We don't really know. What we do know is that Karl Denke kept a written ledger of his victims, with the first entry being Ida Launer in 1903.
Well, I mean, props for him being organized about it, I guess.
Not much to go off of on who Ida was, but they were likely a vagrant traveling from town to town. Because it said that he welcomed travelers and vagrants.
Yeah,
So we don't know how he killed her either. But we're gonna move ahead now to 6 years later, in 1909, when Karl kills again, also thanks to that ledger entry. This victim was 25-year-old Emma Sander in 1909. Her disappearance and murder would actually be pinned on another local man, Edward Troutman, who would remain in jail for over a decade until the true circumstances of her death came to light. No one suspected Karl Denke in the least. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Edward Troutman was, after he was released, he was given, a massive pardon, as well as, a very large check.
Oh, I'm sure.
That was, sorry for the...
Sorry for the 10 years of your life we just took off of you.
Yeah. Sorry for the 10 years. Sorry for, all the horrible everything, pitting you for... You're an innocent man, here you go.
I mean, that's more than most people get nowadays.
Yeah.
So, God, that's still rough.
Big time. Things seemed to stay quiet for Karl for a while, until 1918, when he had to sell off his house because he couldn't afford it due to the high inflation, as I mentioned earlier.
There it is.
He was stubborn and he refused to leave, so he instead lived in and rented a ground floor apartment at the very house he used to own.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's gotta feel weird.
He was also allowed to keep the shed, still.
It's probably...
And despite losing all his money and inheritance, hello inflation, he was still seen as lower middle class, that is.
Ouch.
Yeah. And then, For the last 6 years of his life, from 1918 to 1924, Denke volunteered at a homeless shelter.
Oh.
I'm gonna
no.
I'm gonna speculate here because it might be. It's a speculation. We don't know it, and again, he's dead, so he's way dead by this point. He may have used it as a means of looking for potential victims.
Yeah.
Big time.
I dare say that's almost not even speculation.
But just for potential legal thing, like gotta say speculation.
Oh yeah, but
these are the lower dregs of life. They won't be missed. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Which is kind of what happens with a lot of serial killers, as I've listened to and seen documentaries and podcasts about them. It's always the homeless and the people who are sex workers. People
homeless, sex workers.
People who won't be missed. Just legitimately who have no safety net.
Yeah. Or have no family that know where they're at.
That too.
Like hikers, campers, people in the wood, the old trope of the teenagers at the summer camp.
Yeah, big time.
Absolutely.
It was especially during this 6-year time period that Denke's killing began to ramp up. When the police found the ledger, they managed to find roughly 30 names, but there is suspicion he may have killed more.
Good God.
We're about to come to a head. So, as I said, everything came to a head with Denke on December 21st, 1924, just a few days before Christmas. He is finally arrested for murder, and here's how it happened. There was a drifter by the name of Vincenz Oliver. He had come to Munsterberg for work, and as most young men do, especially in 1924, the war is over and, traveling from town to town, looking to any bit of work that they can do. Just a traveling hobo.
Yeah.
He had heard about Karl Denke, who, due to the town, had a reputation of providing lodging and food despite his economical status. Seen as this, very good person.
Yeah.
Vincenz arrives at Denke's door and asks for food and a bed. Denke invites him inside and begins to ask questions like, are you a stranger here? Does anyone local know you? Are you looking for work? How would you pair with onions and bread? Okay.
Are you more of a red or a white wine?
Okay, that last one was me, but, I couldn't resist.
I feel like he might have leaned into that at one point or another, like roast beef or chicken better.
Denke said he needed help with drafting a letter, and, asked if he had good penmanship, and asked if Vincenz had good penmanship. Vincenz said his handwriting wasn't good, but it was legible nonetheless. Yeah. Which, that's fine, and that was actually a major thing back then for a lot of people, because some people couldn't write, because either their hands were really fucked up, or just they didn't know how to write, but they could dictate, and that's what some people were really good at, was just writing for dictation. Denke had offered to pay 20 pfennig for this, which was just enough to buy some food, and 20 pfennig is not a lot, I would say maybe just a couple of bucks.
Yeah, probably
USD.
$5-6.
I didn't even
USD.
I didn't even try to look into.
Yeah, that's an old currency that doesn't even exist anymore.
That's such an old currency. I didn't even try to look into what it could have been. Denke likely had used this method on previous victims, by the way.
Oh yeah,
because it puts them in a state of focus that also left them vulnerable. He was also cooking a meat stew and offered a bowl to the starving Vincenz before he got to writing. I have no doubt that stew was people. With full stomachs now, Denke put Vincenz to work. Denke got up and started pacing up behind Vincenz while he dictated out the letter, starting off with, "Dear Adolf, you fat slob," or "fat belly." Translations are fun. I just think that's such a funny... Wait, "Dear Adolf, you fat bitch." Just the thought.
Dear Mr. Hitler.
Oh, gosh.
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck Hitler. But anyway, Vincenz was distracted and looking down at the paper, as one is to do when they're writing.
Yeah.
So Karl grabs a pickaxe What he didn't expect was Vincennes to lean back up and turn around. Vincennes managed to move out of the way just in time, but did suffer a large gash on his forehead, and the pickaxe got stuck into the table. This stunned Vincennes for a bit, but he wasn't out yet.
Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?
The two fight and struggle, with Vincennes screaming for help, and eventually he got out of Denke's grip and residency, screaming for help with blood pouring out of his forehead. This attracted neighbors and a traveling coachman, as well as the police.
Well, obviously. I would hope.
Oh, yeah. Vincennes ran to the police station and told his account of what happened. But the police initially disregarded the account due to Denke's good reputation in the town. Mm-hmm. Some people thought that, Denke was defending himself from Vincennes, outsider against the established man sort of situation. And so Vincennes was arrested for vagrancy, but he doesn't go back on about what happened between him and Karl. He was you got a pickaxe across the head. Of course you're going to be dazed. You're going to be like, I need a minute.
Give me a second. Let me collect my thoughts here that they're spilling out.
But the police were like, we might as well go do that. Might as well question him. So they went and investigated Denke, and they brought him in for questioning. The police want to take Vincennes back to help recreate the scene, see if the stories can add up, just to make sure. Denke went quiet and didn't continue answering any questions after they said, we're going to take Vincennes Oliver back to your place. He just went silent.
Ooh.
That right there is selling something.
Yeah.
Not long after being placed in a holding cell, and before the police had even set foot in his home, Denke was found dead. He'd hung himself in his cell.
Wow. That's no faith in your own cover-up story.
Some sources say he used a handkerchief, others say he used suspenders. Either way, this monster of a man was dead. Now, my thing is...
Let me just say something real quick.
Shoot.
So he used suspenders to suspend himself?
Oh, my God. You are terrible. This is why we're friends.
I'm just saying, if you're going to go with...
Well,
make it a laugh.
The thing is, others say he used suspenders. I think it actually was that he used a handkerchief. And this wasn't like a little, pocket square that I used.
A full one.
Almost like a scarf, essentially. Which, that would have been more than enough to, tourniquet around his neck.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, monster of a man, dead. Which, hey, good for them. Good for this monster killing himself.
Yeah.
Now
that's a horrible thing to say, but at the same time, it's like, if you're a serial killer, you're not really necessary.
Yeah, good for you. You did some right for the world by offing yourself. Anyway, let's take that out of context. Jesus
right.
Christ.
And we're canceled. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, that's on me. Thanks for listening. And
oh my God.
Back to it before we derail further. A few days later, on December 24th, 1924, police went and investigated his house. Took them 3 days to do all of this, but then again, the man was dead, so it's like, well, we now gotta file the dead person's report and all this stupid stuff. Merry Christmas!
All right.
There, the police made a shocking and gruesome discovery.
Everything where it gets weird.
Yep, everything that Vincennes had said was true. Denke's apartment had been turned into a makeshift meat processing lab.
Yeah.
With jars full of human flesh and curing salt. Pickled people.
Wait, hang on, I got another one.
Go ahead.
So he's a pickled people eater? Wait, no, he's dead, so he's a purple pickled people eater.
There you go. You got it, my man. Authorities... Yep, I think I've got you pretty freaked out here. Authorities also found the bloody clothes of victims, as well as piles of bones, along with more cured meat.
Why do you do this to me? I hate you.
The police figured, based on the way the meat was stored, Denke had planned to sell it at his meat shop.
Of course he did.
There was also the ledger, which had offered dates and names with ages ranging from 16 to 76.
So he was just all-inclusive with his murder.
Uh-huh. And this also confirmed that, his victims had indeed been vagrants and transient folks no one would miss. There were also discharge papers, both medical and prison. So people who were fresh out of prison or discharged from hospitals, likely, after dealing with possibly mental episodes or medical issues.
Well, 1900s medical issues.
Yes. Anyway.
Quote unquote.
And it's just going to get worse from here, Tony. So buckle up. You're going to hate me. More. In the kitchen, more pots of human flesh and fat, as well as a couple of tubs of pickled flesh, were found. I'm letting, this is just a sentence. I'm letting this settle for a second, because your reactions. They also found more meat and discarded bones in the shed that Denke had been using as well. I also found a full report on what the police did find. Thank you, Murderpedia, for that one.
Please do tell. What did they find, Tim?
Let's see. Now, they thought he made... Here, in the third pot were found numerous pieces of human skin and parts of the aorta in a gelatinous mass.
You're an aorta.
A bowl on the table in his room was filled with amber-colored fat that appeared to be human. Biological test gave a weak positive result for the presence of human protein. In the shed in which the meat pieces were found, we also a barrel full of bones that was cleaned of tendons, muscles, etc. The most probably had ever been priorly cooked. The investigation initially revealed the existence of 6 forearm bones, which means that they belonged to 3 people at least. Another traces were found behind the shed. A part of the leg remained in the pond that Denke had dug many years before, and also skeletal pieces were uncovered in a local forest. And here's a full list of what had been sent to us from examination. 16 femurs, of which 1 pair of remarkably strong ones, 2 pairs of very thin ones, 6 pairs, and 2 left femurs. This is English translation of German, so it's going to sound like broken English. I'm going to say this right now.
No, that's just Tim's actual speaking voice. He's terrible at it.
15 medium-sized pieces of long bones, 4 pairs of elbow bones, 7 heads of radii, so wrists, 9 lower parts of radii, 8 lower parts of the elbow, a pair of upper shin bone, a pair of lower elbows of radii, of extremities which still remain connected, a pair of upper arms and a pair of upper arm heads, so the ball and socket.
Okay.
A pair of collarbones, 2 shoulder blades, 8 heels and ankle bones, 120 toes and phalanx, 65 feet and metacarpal bones, 5 first ribs and 150 pieces of ribs, broken down probably. All bones, with the exception of a few, were very light, porous, and fatless. In the municipal forest remained, as well, parts of a spine and 4 parts of a clean dissected male pelvis, which on one side showed traces of saw cutting. Only 1 piece of head bone was found. This is a piece of the inferior or petrosal sinus area, jagged on the front side, so right around your nose, I want to say. It looks broken and bears visible signs of a sharp sawing on its top. The piece of bone is cross-marked with ink. Then,
what was he doing with all those bones?
Well, he had to get rid of them somehow. Oh, and let's see. I have a few more. I'm gonna just jump down to the last one. Among Denke's suspenders, 3 pairs were made of human skin. They're about 6 centimeters wide and 70 centimeters long. The leather is not smooth and at one spot broken. It seems not tanned, but only free of sub-skin tissue and dried. At one spot, it is obvious that he made the cuts under the nipples, which are still clearly visible. 4 are patched with the skin taken from the pubic area. Some traces of louse nits were also discerned under microscope. All suspenders show traces of use, and one of them, Denke, was found on himself. So he was wearing a pair of his own creation.
I don't like this anymore.
Yeah. This is way darker.
Can I go home?
This is way
I want to
dark-
go home. Jesus Christ.
This is way darker than Nanny Doss, dude, and she killed him.
Hannibal Lecter is probably like, that's impressive. Jesus. How many suspender sets?
He was wearing one set. There was at least 3 sets that they found.
That's 5 too many.
Exactly. Now, that I'm gonna stop with the police report right there because it's pretty
please,
massive.
thank you.
You're welcome. You're over there.
Dick.
You're over there just. Ugh.
I don't know whether I want to throw up or if I just want to jump out a window.
Well, the bathroom is to your right, so if you want to go throw up, it's right there. Don't jump out a window, please.
I'm going to throw up on your bed.
Please don't.
I'm going to have your cat throw up on your bed.
Asshole.
Your cat, yes.
Lab work on the findings from Denke's apartment, as well as his stomach contents, did come to the conclusion that Karl had in fact eaten human flesh.
Of course he did.
And I do have some photos of some of the grisly effects.
I swear to God, if you say you have the nipple suspenders in there.
I'm not certain, but there is one with a pair of shoes.
Oh, that's adorable.
There's
that's just the equipment.
There's the equipment. There's the pickaxe, the saw, the knives, and a bowl of fat.
That is not a pleasant pick. That's not a Minecraft pickaxe. That's a murder weapon pickaxe.
Big time.
There's no other reason for that thing to exist.
Oh, absolutely. That's very much. Tony is looking at a photo of the cured flesh. Also, these will be available on our Instagram. We will have to absolutely try to.
I don't think I want to put these on the Instagram. There's the suspenders. There's the suspend. Okay, that's adorable. I have to get a new phone now. I have to burn this phone and get a new phone.
Oh, my Google search history is.
Oh,
fucked,
I'm sure
dude.
your FBI agent is very curious as to what the fuck you're thinking and doing.
Yeah, my search history is not pretty. I can't send that one. Dang it.
Life hack, if you never want any telemarketers to ever call you, look up this stuff. No one will ever contact you ever again.
Exactly.
Life hack.
Now, I do have one last photo.
And it's not grouped together, so it's something horrible.
It is the only known photo of Karl Denke after he killed himself.
Oh, God.
That's the only photo we have of him.
Oh, no. He looks like Hagrid from Harry Potter.
Yeah, and you can definitely see by the looks of him, he was not a little guy.
No, he wasn't. Again, Hagrid. With less hair on his head.
Now there are other photos that say that shows another guy wearing a hat that says this is Karl Denke. No, that's actually a different German serial killer who was actually active during the same time as Karl Denke.
So maybe they collaborated on something, bonded over some stew.
On December 25th, Christmas Day, so. Newspapers broke. Now, I'll say it now. The reason why newspapers are active on Christmas Day in Germany is that their Christmas celebration is earlier in December compared to ours. So
I believe it's like the 14th or 15th.
The 5th and 6th.
Okay.
Way early, like 20 days. So so it's a normal day for them. So, but on Christmas Day for us, the news broke out about what Karl Denke had done and the horrors he had committed. For roughly a week or so, the sales of meat dropped.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine that? Just everybody throwing up and fainting and throwing out all their meat because they were afraid it might have been human flesh. Now, with all that being said, don't eat other people. Like, legitimately.
I feel like that should go unwarranted, but yes, please don't, to our viewers, don't eat other people. Don't send us photos of you eating other people either.
Don't do any
that.
of it. For the love of God, please don't. Like,
yeah, don't send a selfie of you over stew like, Grandma's delicious.
You know, I actually hate to admit this.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But when I learned about Karl Denke, I was actually eating a lunch on one of my days off, and it was with a shepherd's pie. So my timing was...
Did you throw it away?
No, I kept eating.
Okay, then. I think we need to go off there and have a discussion.
I'm a fucking monster sometimes in my own accord.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get out here before I get murdered by Sweeney Todd.
Nah. I would never dare, because this next bit is actually kind of, you know, the dangers of cannibalism, like why you really shouldn't do it.
Because people don't eat people.
I mean, besides being on the wrong side of, you know, many different levels, both, you know, religious, spiritual, just full on just wrong on so many ways, cannibalism can actually cause severe harm to the human body. Turn
into a Wendigo.
There's that. And also, as I mentioned, like, my Google history is fucked. Like, at this point, it's just gonna get weirder. Like, I actually looked up, like, I actually typed in effects of human cannibalism. So, yeah.
At least you wrote it like that, and you were like, how much do I cook for 8 people?
I mean, I could ask the Donner Party.
Okay.
But anyway, first...
No, you go ahead and finish this one. I'm gonna go ahead and go.
and he's back.
I hate you.
All right. So, first things first, the average human body can yield over 125,000 calories. With the average...
That's like 3 Big Macs.
Okay, you got me there. With the average muscle mass being almost 33,000 calories. That seems like a lot, but compare that to a cow, which yields almost 100,000 calories in muscle mass alone.
Jesus.
So, I mean, hell, woolly mammoths, they could yield over 1 million calories. All of this mainly
over 1 million calories.
Indeed.
Yes.
All of this mainly for a group or tribe back in the old caveman days. Yeah. So, you know, people would obviously go after bigger game and not other people. I mean, there's also, I think I saw something where it was like, Neanderthals, one of the other, you know, Homo sapien creatures.
Yeah, one of the offshoots of Homo sapien.
Were cannibalized by Homo sapien back in the day, I think. This was ancient man. This was ancient peoples. I'm not going to... I didn't, you know...
Speculate, study, go into it.
Yeah, I didn't look further into it, because I was like, my it's already fucked as it is. Further on this one, cannibalism can make you physically sick, especially if you eat a diseased brain, which could cause you to get Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, or CJD. It's a fatal degenerative brain disorder caused by misfolded proteins called prions in the brain, which can block signals along the pathways to the brain, and thus your brain will slowly kill itself. I
don't have any words for any of this.
They actually discovered about this CJD when an epidemic of a similar disease called Kuru was affecting the Faroe tribe of Papua New Guinea back in the 1950s. The Faroe people practiced a form of ritualized funerary cannibalism, where after someone had passed away, they would cook and eat the cadaver so as to free their spirit and, you know, make them one with each other, sort of thing.
So that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean, where Jack's
about to be sacrificed.
Yeah, that isn't totally insane.
No, but different location, because that's the Caribbean. Papua New Guinea is over in...
Well, yeah, obviously, but I mean, okay. I thought that was just sort of some goofy shtick they decided to
No.
play with.
There was that, like, legitimately...
Okay.
There's some reality to the fiction.
So I'm going to go ahead and start marking off places I'm not visiting.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea.
Luckily, though, like, I'll say this in short. I'll say this: they've stopped the funerary cannibalistic practices.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think.
But as Kuru, as I mentioned, the epidemic itself, it's also a neurodegenerative disease that is also fatal, can cause you to lose control of your motor functions as well as unconscious reactions like breathing. It's even called like the laughing disease, because some people will actually just uncontrollably laugh while their brain just kills itself.
Don't eat brains!
There you go.
My God!
And they've stopped the funerary cannibalistic practice because they were like, oh, this is bad. Like,
eating brains is bad. Oh, who'd have thought?
But the outbreak did help with understanding CJD a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, we would not have learned more about it had it not been for this tribe. And now let's not forget about the various organs like kidneys and livers, because what are their functions? What's a
to filter diseases and poisons.
To filter waste out of your body.
To filter out your alcohol after you've had too much to drink at the strip club.
Exactly. And that just sounds disgusting. Like, I would not want... That just sounds disgusting. Like, it's legitimately
It's a trash bag filter.
It's a trash bag sponge that just needs to be wringed out. I don't want to even do that.
No, it's like... your grate or your little catch at the bottom of your sink?
Yes.
It's just you take all that crap that accumulates in there and you just eat that. That's what you're doing.
That's what the liver and kidneys are, because unless you live a clean life, not worth it. But as I just said, and short of all this, just don't eat other people. It is very much just disgusting and wrong. And I really do think that I really do believe that cannibalism is very much like, as we discussed in the Wendigo series, you truly do lose your humanity. Like, once you have consumed...
Yeah, it's not even a spirituality, because neither you or I are very spiritual.
Yeah, we're not spiritual
religious
people, yeah.
That's just nasty.
Exactly.
Like, I don't judge you if you eat, cow eye or pig, all the weird stuff people eat.
Yeah, ham hock or cow tongue.
Yeah.
Chicken feet. There's actually...
Oh, yeah, no, I've seen chicken... But that's one thing. Don't eat Phil.
Yeah.
Don't eat Steve.
Don't eat Tony. I just wanted that face. Just wanted your face just to go...
I feel like we should have taken a picture of that one.
If I were to take a photo of you right now, that'd be way too appropriate, because I have Saturn eating his child by Goya behind you. That'd be way too fucking appropriate right now. Jesus Christ. Mike.
So I'm going to go ahead and end this episode now.
No, I've got... I have a few more things to go off of, man.
You already covered eating brains. Like...
I mean, the thing is, Denke eventually went into obscurity, which I'm saying, one, that's a good thing, and two, he got brought back for... And anyway, there was, as I mentioned, there was another high-profile serial killer case happening at the same time in Hanover, with the killer Fritz Harman awaiting his 1925 execution. So, that was going on. Plus, this was the 1920s, so soon there was the Great Recession happened, and the Nazis rose to power in Germany, and eventually World War II happened, and then Poland annexed the land that was Ziebice from Germany. It was a whole mess.
And then Germany took Poland, and
legitimately, the area that Denke lived in, it went Germany, Poland, Germany, Poland, Germany, like a couple of times before finally
Russia.
before landing on Poland.
Yeah.
That's where it stopped. Just insanity. But, you know, how did he come back? How did he get brought back to modern times? In 1999.
Okay.
Yep.
Some 70-odd years later, let's talk about this guy again.
Lucina Bialy, the curator of the Silesian Library of Wrocław, which, by the way, it looks like Wrocław, Wroclaw, but because it's Polish, it is very different. So it's I actually had to put a phonetic right next to it. So it's Wrocław. Otherwise, I would have said Wrocław. But it's Wrocław University. She'd been doing research on German newspapers from the 1920s when she came across several articles about Karl Denke, which she then set to work looking for as much information as she could about this unknown killer. Her findings were soon published in 2 of Poland's newspapers, which what brought everything. And then in the summer of 1999, from July to August, the Household Equipment Museum had an exhibit that featured some photos and the tools that Denke had used on his victims.
I was gonna say, I swear, if this woman found his nipple suspenders...
Apparently there were about 1,200 photos taken of the crime scene.
1,200.
1,200 photos. Ah, man, they actually had one of, like, his, I thought I had one of his apartment. It is messy. Like, it's bad. I mean, this has all been bad, but I'm like, it is a mess. Like, you actually see all the,
he's a cannibal. Yeah, but let's talk about how messy his apartment was.
Oh, like,
let's talk about that.
You see full on, like, ceramic pots and everything just all over the place. Like, those are full. You just know that they're full.
Or at least there's residue.
Yeah.
I just grossed myself out. Jesus Christ.
You know, this definitely does make me wonder, though, because he was almost in obscurity. It makes me wonder what other dark and nefarious things are out there in this world. Real things, like real human monsters like Denke, who have been left under the radar for decades, probably even centuries.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was watching one of those various Netflix white woman aphrodisiacs of serial killer documentaries. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong on that statement.
Funny enough, I was at work one day in the break room and they had South Park on, and South Park had an episode where the parents of all the kids were
murder, sex porn.
Murder, sex porn.
Murder, sex porn.
They're like, our murder porn is gone, and the kids had just controlled the.
Yeah, the kid controlled it.
I was just like, oh my god, this is way too on point for modern people's obsession with true crime.
But what I was saying was, in one of those documentaries, I think it was one of the ones that was happening during the 70s, you know, Dahmer, and, you know, the prime of murder.
Yep.
At one point, there were a known, like, 120, 130 known serial killers just out and about.
Active at the time. Yeah.
Active at the time. I don't feel like that number has gone down, because the only thing that has risen is our population has just boomed as a species. That number has gone up. That absolutely has gone up.
Hell, recently they had the news playing on one of the TVs in one of the break rooms at work, and there was actually like the Long Island killer.
Oh yeah,
had finally been caught.
Found him, yeah.
Or at least they think that
they're pretty sure.
Massive person of interest, that is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, and it's nice because most of these documentaries seem to sort of be spurring the attention of, hey, this person's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the most famous one I know of, I know we're sort of diverting from our main attraction of
Well,
Mr. Danke.
If I'll be honest, I don't have anything else.
Okay, so I guess we can probably end on this one.
We have our closing. This is our closing thoughts and pleasantries. That's what I have in mind.
Closing pleasantries. That sounds familiar.
Pretty much. That's
it's not opening pleasantries, but it's close.
Yeah, I put it down here on this as closing thoughts and pleasantries, or closing thoughts and BS. But the killer you're talking about.
You know the comedian Patton Oswalt?
Yeah.
Yeah. His wife that passed away.
Yes. Golden State Killer.
Yep.
Yes.
She is the reason that man was caught.
Mm-hmm.
She absolutely 100% full credit to her and the group of web sleuths that figured it out and did this string theory thing of following it, and they actually got him.
It was actually also with the DNA test.
Yeah, and the DNA. But I mean, the cops never. He was like Danke. It was just some guy that he could have maybe not. It sort of lines up, sort of doesn't.
Yeah,
and then Oswald's passed away wife and all these other web sleuths that are still alive. I can't remember the names, but they did the typical that string theory thing that people, paranoid, schizophrenic people, this means this and this means that. Actually meant it.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that,
I remember when that happened. I remember Patton Oswalt actually tweeted saying, "We got him."
Yep.
For his wife.
And I remember watching that.
That was like I was like, oh my heart.
Yeah.
My heart.
And I'm a huge fan of Patton, and my wife was a huge fan of his wife's and of him. Obviously, we're both fans of him as a comedian.
He's a very funny guy.
But his wife was just so. She seems so bombastically intelligent about it, and literate, and we need more people like that doing that kind of thing.
That type of research.
Because the cops are bound by their protocol. People that are on the web, I mean, a lot of it is speculation. They get a lot of stuff wrong, obviously. But a lot of it can lead to the right people.
Yeah.
Or at least to more evidence that can lead to the right people. So, I as much as I hate serial killers, and I like knowing what they've done, but I don't like knowing what they've done.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like I have a very dark and morbid curiosity about the things that go bump in the night. The stuff that you're not, because you and I were both raised in Southern families, and one of the main things is you don't have unpleasant conversation. This stuff is arguably very unpleasant conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And because it's such a taboo thing to me, I'm like, I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to go down that very morbid rabbit hole just to satiate the dark curiosity.
And it's not even curiosity for me. It's more like it's like the old adage of knowing history so we don't repeat it.
Exactly.
I want to know what these people have done, so I know what the human species is capable of in a villainous form. So it's like we don't have a limit as a species in terms of doing harm.
Oh yeah.
I know this again kind of metaphorical and philosophical, but
not trying to get preachy or philosophical,
no, not trying
but it just happens.
But yeah, it's like this stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
Danke was a human. Danke did this. There's evidence. There's proof. There's exhibits of it, for God's sake.
There was the fact that it was in a farm equipment museum. I'm like, how much? That was that's not much of a not much of a museum. I have to argue. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, knowing what we've done as a human species, I think can help us in the future because we know what we've been capable of beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we need to never really forget.
Big time.
Because even if our darkest people get thrown into the darkness and forgotten, it's going to come back.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why, I'll be honest, that's kind of one reason why I did want to take up history when I was in college, because I wanted to know I wanted to know what the evils are of the world, and there have been a lot of evils. Like, this is just one man. There's been groups of people. There's a lot of stuff that we could cover later on in episodes. I'm not going to even list them out right now.
And I'm sure most people that are listening, I'm hoping they're decently intelligent people, and they can immediately think of at least 2 or 3 things, because there's 3 things that come to mind for me immediately.
I've got quite a few, probably on the same wavelength as you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, trying to end on a note.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't eat people.
Yeah.
Study history, understand where we as a species have come from, and don't eat people. Don't eat people. Don't eat brains. Definitely don't eat brains. Don't eat people, though.
And also definitely look at history through I keep getting them confused, subjective or objective. Essentially, look at it through a non-biased lens. Like, history happened.
Yeah.
Like, look at it through a non-biased lens and just go, oh. And don't take an extreme side. Just go, that happened.
Just read it and understand it.
Sometimes Occam's razor, the simplest solution is the right answer. That's just it. But with that all being said, what do we have for our next episode, Tony?
Well, on our next episode, I think we've decided we're going to end this episode 10 as the end of season 1.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, you get 2 of these episodes per season, you son of a bitch. I'm going to talk about frogs one time and just strap your ass to a chair and make you listen.
Gross.
Yeah, so it was eating people, but, here I am. But on the episode 1, season 2, I think we should tackle a absolute legend of the cryptid community.
Mm-hmm.
She has a name. She has a gender, even. I say we tackle Nessie.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then.
Let's bring it in.
So, yeah, alright.
Now, thank you all for listening to Tall and Short with Tim and Tony. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And, let us know what you think. Drop a rate and review. Comment on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, wherever almost where you find everything.
Talk about how Tim might be a cannibal. I'm just throwing that out in the airwaves. See how that goes. And
send us an email to tallandshortpod@gmail.com. That's tallandshortpod@gmail.com. That's also down in the show description. I also want to say, and I completely forgot this at the top of the show, our logo is pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it's a very don't open dead inside.
Pretty much.
Style. I like it.
That was what I had in my head. I asked my friend Brittany to make it, and she did a fantastic job. So, logo by Brittany Miller, very good friend of mine. Glad to have her around.
Thank you very much, Brittany, for that.
And I almost forgot to plug that for this one. My goodness.
So, yeah, we are on...
Yeah. And follow us on our socials. Yeah, Tall and Short Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
Still working on that one. Got to work on that one.
We've got the Instagram.
Instagram's running. Facebook is in process.
By the time this episode's out, we'll probably have Facebook up and running. Facebook
one way or
properly
another.
done.
Yeah.
Whatever the case. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day. Don't kill people and pickle their meat. And be sure to join us for more Tall and Short. Bye!
Ugh.